Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Ardra GAA Centenary Podcast. For those of you watching on YouTube or Facebook, you can probably see who's on the show tonight. But for those of you maybe listening on SoundCloud or something like that, I'm your host. You can't see me, obviously, with me ugly schmug, Joe Larry, and my guests on the show today. First of all, we have the diminutive speed merchant from Canuckty, Marty Shovlin. Hello, Marty.
Hi, Joe. How are you?
And all the way from the desert in Dubai, we have Mr. Versatile himself. Some would refer to him as a poor man's John O'Shea. Noel 90. 90, very welcome.
How are you, Joe?
It's a long time since you called me Joe 90. It's probably 15 years since I heard that coming out of you. You called me a lot worse in your time, but lads, it's a long time since I've seen you in the flesh, unfortunately, due to what's going on at the minute. So how you? I know Dubai's 90 from your point of view. Dubai's kind of more or less, well, not back to normal, but it's there's a bit more freedom over there at the minute than there is over here, unfortunately.
Yeah, I've been teaching away in the school since September now. We haven't had any online, so we're online all right from March to the summer. But thank God we've been back in school and everything is going all right. Plenty of cases, but life's still going on fairly normal, and we've got the vaccine now has been rolled out fairly quickly, so yeah, we're lucky enough that way, you know.
And you've as for those of you who don't know, Noel and Deirdre had a wee baby girl there. She's just over a year now, Noel, isn't that right? Well used to the dirty nappies at this stage. And Marty, I suppose, having two infamous dogs, some might say, Archie and Finn, you're well used to picking up shite from the pavement yourself, I would say.
That's very true, Joe. They're keeping me active anyway.
Lads, well, just briefly, I suppose I've got you on to chat about our underage team. You know, from when did it start? 97, I think was our last year under 10, all the way through to 2008 was kind of our last year in the under 21 level. And I know Noel's a year younger than us, but lads, I suppose growing up, what would your initial memories be of playing for Ardra and kind of growing up watching the senior team at home? And that, do you remember 95 and Glenties and them games against Glenties and Fintra, or the Killybegs games the year after?
Yeah, I suppose, yeah, I remember very vaguely them games, but just the big crowds at them. Every game seemed to be just massive crowds, and kind of you'd be mad to get home after and kick a ball against the house yourself and stuff. But I suppose for us under 10s anyway, we had the blitzes, which were brilliant.
Yeah.
You know, we had a blitz every weekend or every second weekend, and you know, when we had plenty of success at them too, which kind of made, you know, us really get the drug at that stage, so. And then of course the parish leagues then were massive, so we had, once the blitzes were finished, we went straight into a parish league, and that was your year, and it was just great matches all the time. If you remember, even checking the teams, the buzz checking the parish league teams on Devers window, just the wee things like that it's hard to believe now, but it was great crack at the time, you know.
And Marty, what about yourself? What are your early memories from the under 10 kind of brackets and you know, growing up in the late 90s and watching
same as Noel? I do remember being in primary school and starting to play, you know, 7, 8, maybe even younger, just never missing a Tuesday or a Thursday down at the field. And then, as Noel said, going to a blitz every weekend. And I remember playing on the B team in the blitz, and remember transitioning to my first game on the A team, and sort of sticks with you, those sort of memories. And then,
wasn't it?
Sorry, say that again, Joe.
It was a big thing to make the A team. It was.
I do remember, getting the green and gold jersey and handing in the white with the Adidas one on the shoulder. But as Noel said, going to watch the seniors, and even down in Kentucky, the old Kentucky, standing on the banks there and the crowds around you, and you felt like you're almost in the match. Yeah. And then obviously those big games, the big memories of them. But, you know, the passion that was in the crowds, and when you were younger, obviously that was sort of amplified as well. And even going down, and I suppose when you're in the field, seeing the senior players and looking up to them, and meeting them in the town, those are sort of my earliest memories anyway, and certainly give you
Yeah,
a
sure.
great
Even that time, we only would have had two small dressing rooms, and like we might be finished training, and the seniors could be coming to start training, and they'd be just heroes to you. Like, we'd be watching them and in the dressing rooms or whatever. Like, it was just wee things like that would stick with you.
It was a more intimate kind of environment that time, wasn't it? It was more, comparative as well.
Yeah, it was good now at the time.
Yeah.
I do remember your goal very famously, Joe, up in, I think it was Dunlow when we played Killybegs under 10s. The score line was 1 point to 1 goal. I don't know, do you remember that?
I don't.
Must be the only goal he scored.
No, I don't remember that, to be honest now. But if you're giving me that, Marty, I'll take it.
I remember it.
It was a big thing to be captain for the Blitzes, especially as we kind of got into that final year. We knew really early on Bags and ourselves were the two dominant teams in that age group, in the Southwest anyway. So you knew if you're, J-Mac picked a different captain every week for the Blitzes, and you knew if you were picked that week that there's a fairly good chance you would get the wee trophy on the mantelpiece, the following evening. But I remember, I think it was your Kieran that I think it was the Kilcar Blitz, and I was chatting to McConnell, and McConnell said I must have been upset that I wasn't captain, or God knows what. He said, I'll make you captain next week. And in the intervening period between that Saturday and the following Saturday, Larry had grounded me for misbehaving to some degree, and I was grounded for the following week, and I was inconsolable for about a month after. But just goes to show how important it was at that tender age. But I suppose then I think at under 10s there was about 7 or 8 blitzes, and I think we won maybe 5 or 6 out of the 8, and Killybegs won the other 2 or 3. Would that be right?
I think we lost 1 or 2 finals to Killybegs, but that was kind of the start of our rivalry. Like, at that time we knew probably that these boys will be tough to beat the whole way. Like, when you had Brendan Maguires and Mooners and all these boys were starting to play at that stage too, I suppose, and they were all good players. Like, so.
And I think the two of us, like, obviously our games were really tight in the blitzes, and as I mentioned, that scoreline. But I think Killybegs and ourselves, we found getting over the other teams quite easy. It was almost like a final when you met Killybegs in the blitz, at whatever stage it was.
And that kind of, moving on to under 12, then I suppose we kind of felt, given we didn't really know, because the blitzes were only confined to the Southwest, we didn't really know what the likes of unions and teams in the other part of the county were like. But I think pretty much we kind of felt every year that if we got over Killybegs, at some stage there was a good chance we could go on and win the championship, and that's kind of what happened in under 12s, lads.
Yeah, we that time it's not like now. There was a north section and a south section. Like, it was 5 divisions that time. So like we still would have been in just Southwest at that time, and like I think we beat Killybegs in the divisional final. So we went on, but I think 2 teams came out of the Southwest, so they were still in the competition, and we ended up playing them, I think, in the semi-final in Towney.
Yeah.
And we beat them.
I remember that.
And then we went on to play Buncrana, wasn't it, in the final?
We had a big lead in that final, Marty. I think we were 9 or 10 points up at half time, and we kind of controlled the game fairly well. What can you remember about the under 12 final?
A small little bits, not too much. I do remember, was it Hugh Shovlin and Conal Gilday getting a couple of goals? Am I right in saying that?
Yeah. Hugh came off the bench and got a brace. Yeah.
Yeah, and like the game itself, I do remember Connell's goal quite vividly, and I remember it being a really sunny day that day, and I was saying to Noel there before this week, I remember reading the paper after that game, and the headline was Gilday shines for victorious Ardra, And I do remember that goal he got and the celebrations afterwards. But actually, the game itself, I honestly can't remember just a few small snippets. But yeah, like you said, did Hugh get 1 or 2 goals? Was it?
Yeah, I think Hugh got 2 goals. I think you just, in general, you just probably remember the tighter games better than the games we won, kind of probably a bit easier. What I remember is it was just after the game, just even older people, it was the first under-12 title ever for the club, which was a big thing at the time.
And I do have a vivid memory of driving home in the cavalcade and being that age and, feeling like a celebrity at that age. But I don't know, before you come into Fintown, you go down the valley and you can look back and you sort of see the cars coming around the corner. And it was massive. I know we were only 12, but the continual line of cars beeping, it was amazing, really. And then coming into the town with the bonfires, it was something special at that age.
And I know that our underage teams and the senior teams and that at home have always had great support, but for maybe just I may be looking back at it through rose-tinted glass, but for some reason I can just remember every big, not even the big games, every game in general, that we played in at that age, we had a phenomenal support. I don't think Magellan missed a game for about 10 years, Marty.
It wasn't just Magellan. Now, a lot of people can be put into that category. I said, even throughout underage and even with the age above us, when we played with the likes of Matthew and Tammy and all them lads, there was so much consistent support from all the players and extended family.
Yeah.
I've heard someone use the term MOPs before, mothers of players. I think we had a big we had a big brigade there, but the support was massive, and it means a lot when you're young and you're looking out on the sideline and you see a big support, and even them people, I suppose, that had no affiliation with the team, that nobody playing, that were going to every game as well. It's probably harder in that regard, if you didn't have anyone close to you playing or whatever. But in our draw, we're blessed. We have people that go to every game,
No, it's just around that time you were on about the under-12 semi-final in Towney. I just remember running out and looking up in the hill behind the goals in Towney, and it was, as a young fella, you kind of just you don't think that there's to be that many at underage games compared to senior games. But I think we were very fortunate to have a huge following. Maybe it's because they kind of knew we were likely to win something. I don't know, but I think generally speaking, that we always had a great support for all our games. I suppose under 13s lads, we're kind of lucky. We have Noel, memory man, Jimmy McGee 90 to kind of fill in the blanks in our memory here. I can't remember a whole lot about the under 13. It was played later in the year, 90. Killybegs beat us in the divisional final. Can you remember much about that?
Not really. Very wet evening. Killybegs much better. Just that was it. We just didn't probably play well in the day. I can't remember too much about that, but we just.
Was that just a Southwest tournament? Was it the under 13s?
I think it's because it was run later in the year. It was different. I think it was under 12s. The beaten. If you lost the divisional final, you still went on. But I think in under 13, if you lost the divisional final, that was your year done, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I suppose, and then under 14s then with probably a bit more motivation, I suppose, on the back of that.
It probably did. I was just going to say it probably did spring us on, because we went on a phenomenal run then for the next 5 years, I think, going unbeaten in league and championship. Moving into under 14, J-Mac threw me into goals. Thanks, John. Still very grateful you done that. I probably seen the writing on the wall that this young fella's career in the forward line's finished, so I'll see what he's like in the goals. 14s, we beat Killybegs. We got through the divisional handy enough, as far as I remember, and was there a divisional championship 90, or was it straight knockout at under 14s? Can you remember?
Well, even before that, we lost the Fela final, which was against Bundoran, and that was probably the first competition of the year. and that was huge because there was a weekend at Tipperary up for grabs there.
Right.
And we had been in under 12s, John we'd been in Templeogue, if you remember.
Yeah.
So like it was, once we've been to Templeogue and under 12s, we kind of had this thing, geez, if we get another weekend away, we'll be doing well. Like, and this was our chance in under 14s to get to Tipperary for the weekend, but Bundoran did us in the final, I think, up in Tyrconnell Park.
Have to hold a bit of responsibility for them.
A bit of complacency probably set in there because it wasn't Killybegs we were playing, and I think we probably
hadn't played Bundoran before.
And I think we were a point down in the last minute, and I thought it was Iker Casillas and tried to come out of defence with the ball, but over my own 21-yard line, and the ball went back in over my head. So I'll hold my hand up there and probably say that cost us a trip to Tipperary. The championship.
We forgive you. We forgive you.
The semi-final down in Convoy, the semi-final. We beat. Who do we beat in the semi-final in the under-14s, lads? Can you remember? Can you remember, Noel?
No. Oh, I don't know. Say we're just. I can't remember the semi now, but remember the final, alright, against Buncrana. But
yeah, I don't know. I was going to say it's probably our best hour of football, but in truth, it was probably our best half hour of football because we were diabolical for the first half, Marty, weren't we?
We were. Was it 8-9 points halftime we were down?
9 points down, I think.
9.
Yeah.
Marty was getting close attention that day.
I was just going to say that was a turning point. Was it early in the second half you decided to get Mickey Winkers sent off for the Buncrana centre half back?
Michael wanted an Ardra jersey that day. He was trying to pull it off me. He kept me very quiet, in fairness to him. I didn't do much that day. I think it was the linesman, Joe Porter, that sort of flagged the first yellow and the second yellow. So it was at the start of the second half that he went off, and I think that sort of, kick-started.
We got a goal just before Kieran Breslin got a goal just before half-time, which I think we were 9 down and we went in 6 points down. So we kind of had a less of a mountain to climb.
Was that did Michael Hearn have a goal disallowed, or was it allowed for a square ball? Is that game?
Disallowed.
Oh yeah, same game, yeah. But as you said, Joe, like the second half, with Kieran getting that goal and sort of giving us that boost before half time, and then with Winkers being sent off, we sort of gained confidence in ourselves. And I do remember us playing really well to take it back. What was the final score? Like, did we win by much? I can't remember.
I got the handy free roll and he got sent off.
Fulcrum roll there in the full forward, was it?
In the first half, the corner forward.
Yeah, that wasn't. Had a game of two halves that day now, but yeah, I got the one by a point. Kieran scored the winner. I think I got the equalising goal.
No, you got. We were 9. I think we were 9 points out at half. Maybe I'm wrong now, but I know
we were 9 down. We got a goal just before half time because the report came up there during the week. So how do we read of it there? But
yourself and Gilday really came into it in the second half, Marty. I remember that. Now you kind of started to pull the strings and kind of pulled us back into the game by the scruff of our neck. But we were shell shocked at halftime because between the two boys in the
Christy McDermott got a goal from the throw in. Remember, he just through 10 seconds, like
it was
unreal.
They probably had a bit of motivation because we gave them a bit of a hiding in the 12th final, and we probably weren't ready for them to come out.
They just grew. Like Christy McDermott and Dara Irwin were massive, like compared to us. Like they were just huge. Like while helping, I think what was so good about our team the whole way was we were good down the wings. We didn't rely on. Yeah. Like we had Connell, which in our game plan was very just get it into Connell as quick as possible, like which was, but we could work it down the sides too. Like we'd go very good footballers on the sides. Like we weren't dependent on 2 or 3 men carrying the ball through the middle all the time. Like
I think you're right, and like a lot of other teams, maybe with the exception of Killybegs, because Killybegs were quite similar to us. Like we were strong across 15 good footballers, 15 good people on the ball and able to work it out from Dominic at cornerback up to Connell, like corner forward. I think that's probably what got us over that game is, the sort of players that we had. And then once they went the man down, it opened it up for us.
Yeah. It was probably looking back over all the years playing together, it's probably my fondest memory. That game there, probably just because we were dead and buried at coming up to half time, and we never give up, and we managed to get over the line in the end. Moving on to the under 15s, you were reminding me about I had actually completely forgotten about it, but the under 15 Gaeltacht down in Gweedore against Dunlow. What are your memories of that, Marty?
I think it was we played terrible. I do remember that, and I think it was Dunlow we played in the final, and again half time, shocking display in the small field in Gweedore. I think I got a couple of goals that day, but probably they were the worst goals I've ever scored in my life. It was a bounce over a keeper, a ricochet. I would be embarrassed to put my name to them, but I think
off your ass to them.
Yeah, possibly. I think we won it quite comfortably in the end, but it was by no means a majestic display of football, but nevertheless another, I suppose, Gaeltacht championship for the team, which was great.
Yeah. I suppose moving on into under 16 then, you were mentioning at under 14 level we missed out on the trip to Tipperary in the Fela. And I remember at under 16s then, J-Mac had I suppose you would say a bit of an unorthodox. We didn't really need any extra motivation, but he felt that if he promised a trip to London at the end of the year, if we won the under 16 championship, he felt that might spur us on. And to be fair, it worked. We did win the under 16 championship. How do you can you remember? The one thing I remember about that year is we weren't scoring an awful lot at that time. We weren't putting up 210, 211 every game, but we were conceding very little. We must have been fairly watertight at the back that year. Can you remember much about it, Noel?
Yeah, we kind of, I think that's similar to yourself. We kind of got through the division probably playing okay, but yeah, even in the semi-final we played Convoy. We didn't play great. Like we got over the line against them, and then we went into the final against Killybegs. We made hard work of it, but I think at that stage we kind of were used to just grinding out wins. Do you know what I mean? Like if we weren't playing well, we could just do enough. And I think around that time, Declan Gavigan came into the full back as well. That might have been around his first year playing full back, and he was a big help. And Declan I think so, and Declan Gallagher then, and yeah, we just did enough against Killybegs. Do you remember the final in Towney? Oisín came off the bench and got the goal in the second half.
He still
remember. Yeah, Oisín did really well for that goal, kind of shooting up the goals.
They were coming back strong at the time, like.
Yeah, up into the goals there with the sea at the background, and he kind of came in from the keeper's right, that side, and a narrow angle and buried it in. That must be later on too. There can't have been long left in the game when that goal went in, I don't think, was there?
5 or 10 minutes maybe.
No, it was good then to get the trip to London then. Sure, was that Halloween time. That was a big weekend.
Yeah, what do you remember? I suppose when I think about London, boys, I can't think about it without remembering the three lads, Sean, Tomas, and Guilty Og. They were kind of central to all the shenanigans and the mischief that went on that weekend. What do you remember about London, lads? What's your abiding memory?
Just go ahead, Marty. There.
Just remember a lot of things that we did that weekend, and I just remember enjoying every second of it, from the match that we played, and then being out that night, from playing poker with Michael Phelan in the hotel room, Madame Tussauds. Like we did a lot, and it showed how well we got on together as a team and management, because it was just really enjoyable, and and it was great to mark sort of the success with a little trip like that. And when you're young and that age as well, and not really experiencing much of those sort of things, it was really great and something I remember vividly. But when mentioning the three lads there, there were such three strong characters in that team. I have a photograph at home on our stairs, and every time we go upstairs, it's of the under 16s, I think, with the green and yellow, the Ulster Bank sponsorship jerseys, and you can't go past or go up the stairs without looking at the three boys in that picture. Like, I know exactly where each one of them are. And it is, I don't know if there's any underage team in the country that would have experienced a loss like that. But back to the London trip, yeah, it was great. I don't know, Noel, if you can remember anything
well, I just remembered
specifically.
during the lockdown when John was putting up pictures and everything of it. Like, there was a picture where I think we're waiting at a bus stop or something, and the three boys are up on shoulders, Connell, Thomas, and Sean. Like, if you look back there on Facebook, you probably see it. But it's just so coincidental. It was the three boys are up on shoulders, and just it's a great picture. Like, looking back at it, but yeah, massive loss now. In fairness, three great footballers too.
Three great footballers and three very similar personalities in a lot of ways, and I suppose, as the man says, they'll always be with us in one way or another. And the one abiding memory I do have of London is the three lads. So I suppose it's a nice memory to have in that regard. But just on that London trip, do you remember Phelan being left behind in the tube station?
There's a bit of stations, all right. Was it John Martin that had to take the bull by the horns and haul back a station or something, did he?
Oh yeah,
I think so. Yeah, we got him back eventually, all right. But funny now. But even just on the management, like, fair play to them. Looking back, like, just organising a trip like that for 25 young fellas, like under 16, to go to London, like, wasn't easy, I'm sure. Like,
But I think, Noel, you would experience some of this, and myself being, working in schools and maybe being involved with teams, like, like such a good bunch of lads, and characters, and, really, really good kids to bring away, like, and I suppose the management as well, like, there was a lot of respect there as well from players to management. But yeah, it was great that they did that for us.
We're always well looked after, lads, I suppose, weren't we? When you think about all the, the trips even to Croke Park to watch, I think we were in the Ireland semi-final one year, the Temple Low. I remember we went to a couple of Ulster Championship games in Clones and Enniskillen and that, and then up to as far as London, and we were always well looked after. I suppose we done the business on the pitch, and we were they made sure we weren't wanting for anything, afterwards either.
That brings the team closer together, them trips as well. Like, you get to, whatever about training and playing matches or going to matches, when you get away with a weekend like that, it was, it's even better again, like, to bring the group closer, like.
Yeah. Right, lads, we'll move it on to the unfortunate subject now that I have to cover, and that's the minor final in 2005. I suppose it's fair to say we probably were starting to kind of not go over the hill, but we probably peaked maybe at under 16 level, and Killybegs probably had a fair bit of hunger built up over the previous 4 or 5 years, and heading into that minor year, they beat us well in the divisional final, I think, prior to the actual county final. Probably a bit of a rude awakening for us, and then heading into the final that day, I suppose Declan was injured, wasn't he? Declan was carrying a knock into that final, which didn't help. But I suppose they probably, in fairness, Killybegs, they were a great side, and they outplayed us completely on the day, and they probably deserved their day in the sun. Because they would have been, if they had to win nothing at that age group now, it probably wouldn't have been a fair a fair reflection on how good a team they were.
I think, like, after that game, you're right, they definitely deserved to win that match. When the final whistle went and you saw their management and players and the emotion on their faces, not that we would have been the exact same, but I think that was years of, not succeeding with us on the underage setup, and then them winning that game. And I never forget looking at the players' faces that day. Like, they certainly weren't going to leave that one behind them, and I suppose they had more hunger for the match than us.
And Noel, I know it was a bit of a...
If Everton had just come calling for a shamey a couple of years earlier, like, things could have been different.
Great players like they had Coleman, Mooner, Paul McGinley, Brendan Maguire, Noctor, Brendan Fahary.
I think as well, a few of our lads had started college and stuff, and it was just, and not that they probably had the same, but it was just kind of, it wasn't maybe as straightforward. I remember that year just getting everyone training the same way we had been the whole way up, and having boys coming back on weekends, and it was probably, maybe just an excuse, but like we didn't play our best football at all that year. Like, we kind of, if even the divisional you're talking about, and then we beat Unions. Well, we beat Unions in the semi, didn't we, by a point? Remember Thomas had a great battle with Kieran Green that day.
We did, yeah. We were well behind that game, I think, weren't we? From what I can remember, we were
dug it out to a point, I think, and then unlucky, I suppose. But
have you forgiven J Mac for dropping you for the final, Peter?
Just about.
But we were 5 years unbeaten at that stage, and I suppose it shows how strong we were. That that team was, because as far as I know, I think that was McGrath's first year. Like McGrath had another year left at minor, but I think that was McGrath's first year starting for that team, and it just shows.
No, McGrath would have another 2 years left at minor.
Would I thought it was.
Yeah. No, he's a year younger.
Yeah.
So he would have now. That's at that time you didn't like. There was very few players who were playing 2 levels above themselves. Like Connell would have been one of the few in our lads who would have been playing 2 years above himself. Like but So McGrath, that was McGrath's first year, and he was cornerback, solid. Like
I just remember. I think the first time I was involved down in we had a challenge game down in Letterkenny that year, and McGrath. It was the first time I ever played with him in front of me, and I remember thinking, I was so used to having John Francis in one corner and Dominic in the other, I'm just thinking McGrath was he was a bit probably nervous that day, and I thought to myself, God, looking back at it now, it's unbelievable to think that I was underrating him as a footballer, but that day down in Letterkenny, he didn't stand out. But over the next 2 or 3 years, he just the improvement in his game. He went from a decent reserve player to a county player in the blink of an eye. It's kind of remarkable, isn't it?
Fair play to him. Like, he's just, for any young fella looking at footballers now, he's just the perfect role model, like, isn't he, within the club? Like, just to go from, as it's himself, like, just hard work and dedications brought him to the top, and fair play to him,
And even now, it's when, like, I remember training with Paddy most recently, like at training, like, I think the county players would agree as well that he's the hardest trainer. I forget who said it, but you see that. And he does bring it, when Paddy's there next to you, you will try harder in a similar way that used to do when Damien and Eamon Doherty and all those lads would be training with you. And it is great having that.
Great to have around the club. Lads, I suppose the under-21s then in 2008, it was probably wasn't the same team as we had in the minors and before that. There was a lot of players missing with work, as you were alluding to, Noel, with college and stuff like that. We got over at St. Noel's and Masters, and we're beaten fairly convincingly down in Baldefay by a good Unions team. I remember Paddy McGowan had a day in the sun that day. He was kicking points for fun, but I suppose at that stage we probably weren't the same team. I think Glenties went on to win the championship that year, or the under-21 championship that year.
Yeah, that was they were really starting to hit kind of form at that stage. Like, I think that might have been their 3 in a row that year. They'd won under-21s 2 years before that, I think. And so, like, they were coming very strong at that point. I think, we got over the line against Donegal Town by a point. I remember, I think Kieran kicked the sideline to win it, and then after that we were just kind of doing enough until we ran into Unions, I suppose, that year, and Unions were coming strong too, and we just didn't play our best on the day, like.
Yeah. And Marty, I suppose then, moving on from that, breaking into the reserves and the senior level, I suppose you'd be fairly, you would have thought coming off a strong underage team that we had, and we had obviously Conker and Maher's team directly a year ahead of us, and we teams coming behind us as well, the likes of Volley and Class, and that you would probably have been forgiven for thinking that county championship medals would be thrown at you for the next 5 or 10 years, but it never really worked out like that. Would you be able to put your finger on as to why we didn't transition them good underage teams, ourselves included, into? I know championships aren't handed out very easily, but you would have thought that you would have, especially after the seniors winning in 2004, you would have thought that we might have been able to contest a few more finals in the kind of coming years after that.
Yeah, I suppose like the talent was certainly there, but I think a lot of clubs would have similar difficulties with really successful underage team, and bringing all that together at senior level is not an easy task. Like, and as you correctly said, like championships certainly aren't easily won. And with the added then distraction, I suppose, of players being away and not everybody being at home, and people getting older, and other players would have fallen out of football. Like, I'm not sure how many players of, say, our under 16 would have played senior, but look at it. It's really difficult now. Thankfully, I was delighted to be involved in 2004, kind of just breaking into the senior team around then. So to be involved with that, it was great. And I certainly would have loved to have experienced more of that. But, it's certainly a different ball game at senior level, and, especially with the talent around in different clubs too. And like getting success is really, really difficult.
I think as well, a lot of time around the time we were kind of finishing up in college and stuff, recession was hitting and boys were having to move away. It wasn't as much work around home and stuff, and that kind of was a big impact too, like I would say at the time. And again, we pulled it together for a couple of decent years at senior, but just I suppose 2013 was our real chance, I suppose, against Glenswilly in that semi-final.
Yeah.
Where we lost by a point, a kick of a ball, it was.
I think maybe back to, was it 08 or 09, the games down in Letterkenny against Glenties. I think if we were fit to get over Glenties and them, in one of them games, we might have been thereabouts. But
a few near misses, and then I suppose that kind of, it's always maybe harder to keep coming back year after year. Then, especially with so many boys away from home, and it was kind of part of it, I suppose. But that's it. Just it didn't work out great, I suppose, in the end, on the back of, as you say, all underage success.
Yeah, it's just, I suppose there's never, it's always a good indication that you're going to have teams, good senior teams, but it's never a guarantee, I suppose. Lads, I suppose, and kind of finishing up, I would like to get one kind of abiding memory of playing underage on our they reckon that, I remember hearing Clausen and Ollie's underage team was called the Dream Team. In my opinion, that's complete and utter rubbish. We were the Dream Team. But I'd just like to get one memory from you of playing underage, with J Mac and with J Mac managing and his helpers and that. What's your kind of standout memory of that kind of 10-year period? Let's start with you, Noel.
Well, similar to yourself, probably personally the under 14 final against Buncrana, with just after the comeback of that and winning that game, I'll just never forget it. I didn't score too many goals in my career, but so to get a goal that day as well, when you're a cornerback, to be told you're getting a free roll to just run up and down the field, it was kind of, it was a nice one now. But yeah, I suppose that for me, and I won in all the championships were nice, even I think that under 14 as well, was even the big Paddy, I think, was a big club stalwart, and I think that was the first year that the trophy was named after him. I think he was a big stalwart in Ardra, GH Street and the history and stuff. So to be the first team, I suppose, to win the cup in his honour as well was nice,
What about yourself, Marty? similar memories, or would you have a different?
Yeah, I think the under 14s as well definitely was, because just when you think of sitting down in the dressing room at halftime, knowing how good of a team that we were and how we were, in that position, or 6 points down, I should say, to coming out of that game victorious with the cup and another championship and the celebrations and everything, like, as a pinnacle, that was certainly it. But as a journey, I think it was from the blitzes the whole way up to that minor. I think after minor, it did fall apart for different reasons, but the whole journey was amazing. And like the management, the group of lads that were with us, like, we all got on well together, and I think we all really developed as footballers. Even the lads that probably didn't even go on to play reserve or senior would have had lots of ability, and were certainly, it's a pity that they didn't, because they could have, who knows what they could have gone on to become. But the group of lads to be involved with all of that, and I suppose to have success as well, was amazing, because I think we certainly don't take it for granted, but look at the amount of clubs that don't win anything, and to have our group of lads and the success, it was just great to be a part of it all.
Yeah, like around Ardra, like, geez, like we kept us going for years. You had somewhere to go, you had training to go to, you were always meeting your friends outside of school, like, and it was even meeting people at national school, even meeting ones from other schools, and you kind of knew everyone then when you were going into the comp. And even people from other clubs, like, it's the GAA in general, like, it's just so under, probably, as you say, taken for granted a lot of the time, and we're lucky. We probably don't realize how lucky we are to be involved in it,
Yeah. Absolutely. No, it's great to, I suppose it's great memories to have, though, looking back, and over a brilliant kind of time in our lives, and a very enjoyable period of time, and it's great memories to have, looking back. But lads, I think we're going to have to leave it there. Time has beaten us, unfortunately. I'd love chatting to you. Thanks a million for coming on and sharing going down memory lane and sharing your thoughts and views over the last half an hour.
No bother.
We'll be back next Sunday on Facebook with another episode. I think it's episode 9 next week. So Marty, 90, thank you very much for joining me on the Centenary podcast, and hopefully when all this cracks over, we'll get to meet up and have a bit of crack again soon.
Good man, Joe. Thanks very much.
Man, thanks for that.
Yeah.